got closer, and all I know is they're black on this side. I don't know what the color is on the other. For all I know, they could be pink or striped. My dad would just about pull out the rest of his hair. He said, what did I raise? If he knew as a college professor, he'd understand. It's interesting. You gotta love them in communication. You talk to them. You communicate. You expose yourself when you do that. And love is a sacrifice. Is it easier not to put up with a kid? Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got amens all the way around here. Except those of you who do not have. Kids can be so exasperated. I want you to go back and look at this yourself. It's interesting when you go to 1 Kings, there's a conversation between David and his son. And 3 points he made before he died. One was, be strong. Stand up, be strong. Next one is, be responsible. He said, if you do that, there's certain kinds of rewards that occur. Give me 2 more minutes. You've got to teach and be a mentor, be a coach to your kids. You've got to be an example. You've got to manage the moral environment. You won't say it out loud, but every one of us know that you can go to Yahoo Images and you can click in any word that you want to, take off the safety button up at the right-hand corner, and in 10 seconds or less, you can have over 1 million pornographic images instantly. Our kids know more about computers than most of us do. They already know this. But we've got to manage that kind of thing. One of the things I strongly recommend is if you have a child, regardless of the age, they do not have a computer and internet access in a room that's not a family public room. And in our grandkids' room, we don't make a big deal out of it. There are computers all over the place. If I need something, one of my grandkids can tell me about it. They're savvy. I work on it. But the screens are visible by anybody that walks by. Is that because we don't trust the kids? No. It's because we don't trust the environment that's so easily accessible. The direct teaching is to form habits and a conscience. Our conscience relates to our exposure and the habits that we have. Hopefully our conscience is clearly related to God. And discipline wisely. Clear and firm, but not harsh. Say it again. Clear and firm, but not harsh. I can tell you stories about that. You can tell me stories about that. Solve conflicts fairly. And when in doubt, don't. And when the choice is be gentle, but firm. Let the kids become their own conscience and the guide for their own decisions. And when you talk to your sons, just give them some advice. Telling your son, you can be with the young lady who just absolutely dazzles you. And in a 10-minute private interlude, you can make a decision that has consequences that will affect your life from then on. And I've seen that happen so many times. Thoughtful and consistent. When I do this, here's the consequence. It's like a price tag. It'll be the same every time. It's not that, how many times do I have to tell you? I'll ask my kids that once. Do you like it? No. Do I care? Yes. Am I going to change that? No. You got it. Is that way? Provide opportunities to practice virtues. And they've got to see it. Standing in line. Checking out. A clerk gives me too much change. I try to gently say, you gave me too much money. And she yells at me for making her look bad. What kind of a fool you are? I gave you $1 too much, why didn't you shut your mouth and leave? And I made it right, and I turned to the kid and said, the reason I did that is not because of her. The reason we behave is because who we are. And we're children of God. As long as you're a child of God, this is the way that you behave. Not because they're awful. Not because they're mean. Not because they do bad things. We behave because that's what drives us. And the last is, we are responsible to facilitate spiritual development. And those list 10 things are critical in terms of our relationship, particularly with sons, but all of our children and all the kids in whom we come in contact. Every kid in this congregation watches one of you. Every kid in your neighborhood watches you. Every adult watches you. That's a tremendous responsibility. But we ought to be the kind of people who reflect the attitude and the behavior that God exhibited in His own Son. There's a verse in Luke that I wish was not there. It says we need to love our enemies. We need to be like God. We need to model our life after Christ. And it says in the middle of that passage in Luke, because God is kind to the ungrateful. I want to smack him. God is kind to the ungrateful and the evil. As a high school principal of 1,000 kids, I'd do something for some kid or some kid's parent, and they'd curse me for it. And I wanted to smack them. And I'm reminded of the verse that the God who guides my behavior, I'm trying to follow that, is kind to the ungrateful and the bad guys. And I want my children to be just like that. I took 4 minutes of your time. Let's take a break. We'll set him up and we'll get started.